The rapid development of AI is not just changing the tools that we use, it's fundamentally redefining the skills we must teach. We are feeling the pressure of constantly navigating this evolving landscape, struggling with questions like, what is the appropriate use for AI in research? How do we design durable, effective training? How do we choose the right tools? And critically, what can we do to ensure that the valuable knowledge that we're aiming to design and deliver doesn't become outdated the moment that it's rolled out? Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's ARDC National Skills Forum. It's great to see so many of you joining us today. And with over 260 registrations, this is officially our biggest forum yet. My name is Lyrtzis, and I'm the Skills Development Lead for NCRIS here at ARDC. It's my pleasure to be your host for this important session. Now, before we begin, and recognising that we're meeting virtually today with attendees connecting from lands all across Australia, I'd like to pay my respects to all traditional owners and custodians of those lands. And personally, I'd like to acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional owners of the lands on which I work and live, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Now, just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. So the session is being recorded and will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. I encourage you to turn your video on if you feel comfortable doing this, and please use the Zoom reactions, and you can use the chat to post any questions that you have. So we do have a Q&A session at the end, so throughout the course, feel free to add any questions you have there. And just a note that our session is governed by our code of conduct, and we just want to make sure that we have a respectful and safe environment for all our attendees. So for our regulars, welcome back. For new attendees, the ARDC Skills Forum is your community. So it's an open assembly of trainers and skilled practitioners created as a monthly touch point between our annual Skills Summit. The purpose is simple, is to connect and share knowledge, to showcase digital research skills development activities and share resources and best practices across the sector. And this brings us to today's hot topic, navigating AI and research training. The level of interest we have had has been incredible, confirming that it is a conversation we need to be having. To lead our discussion today, we are very fortunate to have a fantastic panel of experts joining us. Dr. Minh Huynh, Dr. Brian Ballsun-Stanton, and Dr. Weisi Chen. Minh is the AI in Research Training Lead at Australian BioCommons, where she collaborates with researchers to explore how AI can support life science research. She designs learning experiences that make complex ideas approachable and helps researchers feel confident and supported through thoughtful, user-centered design and innovative technology. Brian leads Macquarie University's Faculty of Arts, Understanding, Policy, Teaching and Research initiatives around the techniques and appropriate use of generative AI. He has developed the university's guidance note using generative AI in research and pioneered AI integration across multiple disciplines, winning various awards for his work. He teaches the effective use and techniques of generative AI to undergraduate and postgraduate students, reaching more than 1,500 students through his various initiatives. And Weisi is currently the e-research technology specialist at University of Technology, Sydney. He has a PhD in computer science and engineering and has extensive experience with e-research tools and platforms, research data management, data analytics, AI and training for over 10 years. He has developed training courses on RadCap and Gen AI for UTS, and has been involved in various AI initiatives and projects to enhance research amongst the UTS researcher community. So as you can see, we have three phenomenal experts here, and we're very excited to dive into their insights. And so with that, I'll hand over to our first speaker, Minh.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Minh. And thank you, Ellen, for the introduction. I am the AI and Research Training Lead at Australian BioCommons and the Sydney Informatics Hub at the University of Sydney. And today I'd just like to speak to you briefly about how we're using community engagement and user insights to inform the design of an AI training program for life sciences research. So why are we doing this and why does it matter? Researchers are increasingly expected to use AI tools, but often do this without formal guidance. There is a critical requirement for training that is pedagogically sound, effective, responsible, and applicable across diverse contexts. And thirdly, we want to make sure that all researchers have equal access to skill development in order to build a stronger national research capability. So our purpose is to help build researcher confidence and capability by delivering an inclusive and community-informed framework. So we are doing this two main ways. The first is we have just finished running a national AI survey. So this survey has been designed to assess how AI is being used in order to identify any bottlenecks and prioritise national infrastructure funding. The second is through a series of focus groups. So these are 60-minute online sessions, gathering individual feedback on the challenges that researchers are experiencing and the needs they have to help inform the training design process. So from our focus groups, this is a breakdown of where our researchers are from. So the first graph here shows you their current roles. So as you can see, a lot of our focus group participants are research support staff or working at core research facilities, followed by postdoctoral researchers. In the second pie graph, we have the research domains that our focus group participants are coming from. So the largest group there is from bioinformatics workflows, followed by genomics and proteomics. So what have we found from these focus groups so far? So we interviewed 20 researchers in total, and researchers really wanted to use AI to handle repetitive and tedious tasks, as well as organising data, so that they can focus on the more interesting aspects of their research. And while they said that AI could be very useful for explaining topics and helping with code, often it hallucinates or makes things up, which requires careful checking of outputs, further adding to workload. There was also a point about confusing rules and policies. So researchers were experiencing confusion over data privacy rules at their institution. And together with the fast pace of new tools being released, it left them feeling confused and overwhelmed. In terms of training, live workshops were the preferred method for training, but rather than generalised training, researchers really wanted real-world examples to teach them exactly when and how to engage with AI tools. So in terms of the next steps for our training program design, we are following the design thinking process, which starts off with empathise. And so this is where we have already completed our community engagement through the survey and focus groups. The second stage is defining what this means. So looking at the insights to understand what the needs and challenges are. So this is currently in progress. The third phase is to have a look at the types of learning experiences that will align with the needs of the researchers. And the fourth one is to start prototyping an early stage learning experience that we can pilot with the community. And finally, in the testing phase, this is where we will release the prototype, evaluate, and continue to refine through that process. And so what's next for us? Next week we have a webinar which will have a further delve into the results of the survey and focus groups. And then in July, we will be running an introduction to generative AI workshop, addressing the challenges that we identified in these community engagement activities. And I just wanted to thank my colleagues, Ben and Melissa, for contributing to this work. And I will finish there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you so much, Min. We're now going to move on to Brian.
Hi, folks. I'm Brian Ballsun-Stanton. I am a lecturer at Macquarie University. And effectively, over the last Over the last few years, it has been my privilege to look at and understand what these things are. And so I have accumulated, and hopefully I'm sharing the right screen, these resources of effectively all the various bits that I have put out in terms of my support for research and my support for education. These links should be dropped into chat, and if they're not, after I'm done talking, I'm happy to do so. So from a research perspective, one of the things that I'm quite pleased with is a framework for working through how to set policy. Because it turns out that there are many different ways that we can understand and think about, there's a figure here somewhere. I'll just go to that tab. Think about this sort of thing. And the understanding of who we should speak with and how we should engage with this is tricky. I was on a call this morning with some colleagues in a different state, where they were asking me questions about, well, should we go with this open source tool? Should we go with this commercial product? And I ended that meeting by telling them that all of that would be pointless if they didn't have a way of understanding and having effective governance. And all of that would be pointless if they didn't have a way of engaging with users, not so much as here is your little short 30-minute intro, but at a unit level. And the metaphor that stuck with them was, think back to Excel in the 90s. We are talking a change in how we behave, a change in how we engage with these things, and we don't have the effective judgment or instincts to keep up with them. More to the point, when the stupid things change every 6 to 8 weeks, and when there's a new way of engaging with them every 6 months, we are also in a Red Queen's race for those whose job it is to not simply pay attention to them. I also wrote Macquarie University's guidance note. I also have a checklist in this, so if you are looking for some resources, all of these are linked on the resources page. In terms of pedagogy, I was in Europe last year. And so I gave a nice short 15-hour course to JLU Gießen for undergraduates all the way up to professors, talking them through my understanding of this. I recently developed a slightly less short 28-hour introduction to generative AI. It says for educators, quite frankly, most folks wanting to have a sense of how my judgment around these tools and how I think about when and how to use them, I recommend this. Hopefully your universities have agreements with Coursera. If not, reach out to me. And this is a lecture that I'm giving in an hour because many folks do not think about the long history of AI. And of course, all of my work is fair and open source, because that is important to me. And so my job here in the humanities is to think about how the fundamental techniques of the humanities, to wit, words gooding and good judgment, are applicable to these things. And it turns out that the humanities, in this very strange way, are poised to win because our job is to figure out how to say things. And that is a fundamental skill that is very much overlooked with the technological frame of AI.
Thank you so much, Brian. Now Weisi is going to take us on the last 5 minutes.
Thanks, Ellen. Thank you. Can everyone see my screen? The slide? Yes. Okay, cool. So, hello, everyone. I'm Weisi Chen. I'm the e-research specialist, technology specialist within the UTS e-research team. And today I will share my experience and the insights gained from the development of our e-research led Gen AI training, which was specifically developed to help the university community to integrate Gen AI into their research workflows. The background was like at the end of last year, we found that in the AI age, the demand for using Gen AI to support research is high. And obviously, there was a big gap within the university, and people can't find good resources, couldn't find courses that can let them through how to, use Gen AI to support research. So we wanted to quickly come up with something that can train up the researchers, which was better than leaving the researchers doing things randomly and inefficiently. So you may want to guess how long it took me to prepare for the Gen AI training course. We actually did it for within 3 days. So the first day we came up with the structure of the training, the curriculum, and 1 day for content, and the final day for screenshots and content polishing, so that we can, make up the handout, the slides in the final day. And of course, this cannot be achieved without AI's help. So we basically used various AI tools for the content generation, for the slide generation, a lot of different things, use case generation, so for AI training. And we piloted this training, at the end of last year, and we gathered feedback, and we found that, people found, maybe within one training course to cover this much content is just too aggressive, and then we did something different. In the pilot, we splitted the research lifecycle into steps, and then we demonstrated use cases for each step, like from ideation, using Gen AI tools to generate ideas. So sometimes researchers have their some basic ideas or have some data set, but they don't know what to do with it. And we show them the possibility to use Gen AI to generate ideas, or some possible pathways where people can, get a better research outcome. And the second step was the literature review, and then research design, data analysis, and coding as well. And finally, writing and revision, and dissemination and impact. And we showed people, using different tools to generate slides, generate infographics, and disseminate it in a better way. And finally, we split it, the entire content into two, because people found it was overwhelming for one particular session. And also there were participants, with different levels of AI literacy. So we divided into the training into 2 sessions, Gen AI 101, which is for foundations, and Gen AI 201, which is for kind of intermediate applications, including coding. And we always show people that as human experts, as researchers, researchers are kind of more responsible. They are responsible for whatever they generate, whatever they use. So AI is the co-pilot, but as human experts, we always need to verify the results. And we actually show the formula for, what is a good prompt, even though the prompting technique is less and less important as AI capability is getting higher and higher, but we still show them the best practices, especially when people need to think about data sensitivity, validation plan, and reproducibility of their research. For example, they need to keep a simple prompt log of tools, seeds, and versions. And we also map the tools to the research lifecycle. For example, for literature discovery, we showed tools like Elicit, and data analysis and coding, we showed Cursor and Claude Code. And also for dissemination, we showed Google Notebook LM and other tools. And in the feedback, we found some, differences between among the attendees. Some people, give us very high marks, saying the examples were extremely useful, and they were kind of hungry for, how to use these templates. But some of them need some, want to actually get less content for each session so that they were not overwhelmed. So then, after that, we kind of changed the course content in a balanced way, and also we added exercises where people, after showing some concrete examples, people could actually follow the same methods, but not exactly copy and paste. They can actually do things by themselves to solve a particular different problem. All right, so I think that's basically it. And we actually, through this exercise, like 3 days of content generation and one pilot, and then now this semester we have run the course for AI 101 and 201 each, once for each, and we got really good feedback this time. And I think this is going to drive us to an even better curriculum, and we are expanding it for the future as well. That's it from me. Thank you.
Min, Brian, and Weisi, thank you for your truly wonderful presentations and for sharing such profound expertise with us in the community today. That was incredibly insightful. Now, we have been inundated with thoughtful questions during registration, so we'll start with some of those questions. But in the meantime, if you have got questions, feel free to add them to the chat. So we might start with Min. What are the 3 most important considerations for potential AI users?
That's really difficult to land on 3. So I think the first one is making sure that you have a really clearly defined goal and purpose for what you want to achieve. So that's the first one. The second one is selecting the best tool for the task. So ensuring that, whatever task it is actually suitable for AI and not tool. And the third one is a sort of a mash of 2, if I can. So that's really thinking about your research data and the privacy and protection level of that data, as well as your governing institutional policies.
Thank you. The next question is for Weisi. So based on your first-hand experience with AI in educational settings, what are the primary limitations of the technology in supporting teaching and learning?
All right, thanks, Ellen. I think based on our experience at GTS, the biggest problem is the barriers from, the university. At the moment, we only endorse Microsoft Copilot as the endorsed Gen AI tool that can be used freely, without any approval by the university. So that researchers can only use that one. But whatever other tools they want to use for the research, it has to go through a very complex kind of process to get approved. So at the moment, the training is, that we designed and delivered, it was kind of a gray area that we show the possibility of different AI tools to support research. But at the moment, we don't have other tools, other licenses that can give researchers to actually use them as they wish. So I think the biggest problem is, our team is trying hard to actually persuade all different stakeholders to, probably get a whitelisted list of AI tools that people can use for at least public data, but this is in the process. And also, we are trying probably in the future, maybe develop some sandbox where people can, in the training, they can use the same environment. Currently, one of the issues is that people use different laptops, use different tools to do the same exercises, and people may find it difficult to follow. So, if we have a sandbox, the same environment for everyone, I think it will help as well.
Thank you. And question for Brian. So AI is transforming personalized training. What are the most effective ways you've seen AI tools used to support individual learners?
I've been thinking about that, especially in the context of some of what my colleagues have just said. And if I can say only one thing, it is don't hide the complexity. There are plenty of things that look to obscure the prompts, that look to obscure the idea of which model are we using, what infrastructure are we using to do that. And if we do that, we make people dependent on our judgment rather than scaffolding. And so in terms of personalized training and effective ways used to support learners, it's a way of getting people to slow down. amusingly enough. And so when I was at Aarhus, we were working on some prompts to explain back to the AI the reading. Do note the direction there. This is not summarizing. This is how do you do active reading. I just built an open source tool for annotation. Some of us may remember paste sticks and scissors and note cards and shuffling those about as we pull quotes out. And so the most effective tools are the ones that allow you to watch yourself using the AI, because anything that allows for the reflective practice of thinking about, am I happy with this output? What do I know? Anything that actually adds friction to your mechanism of learning is something that allows you to slow down and think about, well, why am I doing this? How am I saying what I'm saying? What do I want out of it? In terms of actual tools, they change every 6 weeks, so who cares?
Thank you. All right, so for everyone joining us live, this is your opportunity to engage with our experts. I can see a couple of questions are coming in, but feel free to keep adding your questions. You can also raise your hand as well if you'd like to ask your question directly. So the first one we've got is, hi Weisi, thanks for sharing. I'm from e-research at Griffith University. We've been running some Gen AI training sessions for researchers as well. I was wondering what level of support your organisation provides for researchers using Gen AI, particularly when they have specific or technical questions.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks for the question, Wei. So I've actually typed something already there as the answer, but shortly, we have different levels of support. We have a tier 0 support where we actually built an AI bot, that has all the information about e-research services, including the use of AI guidelines there. So people ask questions about AI. There are some initial answers, but we also have a tier 1 support by experts. So basically that will come to our team. They can ask questions via email. And also, apart from the training, Microsoft provides their own training on using Copilot and showing Copilot features. We also have a bi-weekly drop-in session where researchers can come along and ask questions about any e-research services we provide, but including AI. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Now, there is a question. I can see that Brian's already put some information, but it was from Katrina, just wanting to know, what do you think the key differences in how HDR should or shouldn't use Gen AI are, and if any? So Brian, did you want to expand on that one at all?
And just to make sure, to my fellow panelists, please interrupt and ask questions. Like, this is a panel discussion. For HDRs, they are researchers in training. And so the fundamental thing we need to remember, and that I put into my guidance note and in Macquarie policy, is that the supervisors are liable for their students' choices, which means that a supervisor, unlike the undergraduate level, does need to exert a positive control on should and should not. Because I believe a majority of us here have read, let us say, deeply regrettable first drafts that are extremely muddy and poorly phrased that could help, that could have a useful editorial pass, for lack of a better example, done by AI. And then at the same time, a lot of us here have certainly seen students who replace their brain with computer and then look at us with puppy dog eyes. And so the real problem is that supervisors need to have that judgment, and giving those capabilities for which student should use which is not so trivially communicated. And just speaking to the need of having that conversation and having the positive and negative guardrails is very important. What I would probably say is, if nothing else, the students should be prepared to discuss and defend their full conversation transcripts with their supervisors, because it's a very useful way of auditing their thinking.
Min, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just to sort of expand upon what Brian's saying, I think rather than the should or shouldn't question, I think the critical question here is when research students graduate from their PhD, what are the skills that are critical for them to have as they move into the workforce? You know, what skills could they use AI to assist? And what skills need to be critically theirs because it's an important part of research? You know, things like, you know, critically analyzing things and making decisions around, you know, their results, their writing, and all those kind of things. I think what are they willing to offload, or what should they be willing to offload? I've found AI to be most useful when you already have the foundational skills and you can therefore critically assess the outputs. But if you don't yet have that skill, how do you know if what AI is producing is any good or not? So I think it's really thinking about, you know, what are the skills that they need to have as they move into the workforce, and really focusing on that.
Can I add one point? So I feel that the workforce demand is quickly evolving, you know, in this AI age. So, you know, the strategy has to be changed constantly as well. So it's not a static kind of solution. And I also see people like teaching programming and computer science, like for programming knowledge, programming languages, you know, at least people researchers or students have to understand one of them, you know. So some basic training on one particular programming language shouldn't be skipped or shouldn't be replaced by AI coding. And then, you know, at least they can distinguish what is good, what is not good, you know, in terms of programming. So even if AI generates some code, people still have the knowledge to find out what, you know, probably what are the issues inside the code. If they don't have the basic training on programming, they won't distinguish the difference or find the bugs easily. So, you know, it varies per subject, but just as an example for programming, you know, we still need something that where people shouldn't use Gen AI, like a basic language, programming language.
Thank you. Next question is for Min. What are the key learning outcomes that you've learnt? What are the key learning outcomes that you've learnt are the ones that really need addressing in AI literacy training for researchers? What are the big gaps in understanding?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of the learning outcomes so far that I've sort of thought about are really foundational ones. And so those ones are like really thinking about the task that you want to achieve and which tool out there is the best one that's aligned for that task. But then also thinking about the biases and the ethics of the particular tools you're engaging with, and of course the data privacy and the research data that you're dealing with. Is it appropriate to be using a tool that's, you know, provided by your institution, first of all? Like, is it the best match for that, as opposed to going and using your own personal tools, which quite a few people shared with us that they were often doing that. And the other one is about constructing effective prompts for AI, which I know Weisi was saying that that's less and less important now as the models become better. But I guess, yeah, shaping it and really understanding what is the goal that I want to achieve and how do I prompt effectively to achieve the best output. I hope that helps. Thanks.
I think that actually leads into the next question, maybe for Weisi. So it said that Dr. Chen mentioned that prompts may become less important as AI advances. Could you elaborate on that? And I'd be keen to hear others' views as well.
That's only my point of view, because if you still remember back in 2023, when GPT-3 came to the world, and kind of astonished the world with the capability of handling text. And at that time, prompt engineering became a big thing. And if you look at the job market, there were kind of new emerging jobs called prompt engineer. And now prompt engineer is, I feel, this role is getting less and less important because AI is increasingly capable, of understanding what you mean. Even if your prompt is not that perfect, AI can now actually think through and even split your not that complex prompt into small subtasks. It has the capability now to try to understand you better. And also there is something called agents, as you have already known, that can actually split the task into subtasks and try to solve the big problem in one go without keep asking, questions and try to solve things in several steps. So, that's my point of view. As now, if you try GPT-5 or even above or other tools, whatever tool you use, you feel is definitely more and more powerful than 3 years ago. And we don't need to ask really, really good prompts. So, the AI can still understand us. So that's my point of view. I'm happy to hear others' view on this.
I deeply and respectfully completely disagree. The fact that models are getting more powerful and that they amplify our judgment means that what we say and how we say is ever more important. And the precision in our language, but also this talk of simple prompts. If your prompts aren't multiple paragraphs, please don't treat this like a search engine. You will be sad. Don't get me started about Google's AI assistant. It's abominable. But the precision needed in thinking about how to articulate these things, sure, there are fewer programmatic formulae that are rote things that we put in, but anytime you're using this for research, you are iterating on prompts, you're iterating on techniques, you're iterating on models, and the idea of engineering as choosing trade-offs is critical to anything that is an open question. And so treating this as a one and done thing where the AI can do our cognitive offloading for us is, in my opinion, flatly wrong. Because that means that our judgment is not being effectively exercised and we are not describing with sufficient clarity what we need to happen to achieve our goals. Please, how would you respond?
I mean, I kind of agree that the way people communicate is still important. But my point is that, we don't really need to follow a lot of different templates as before. That's, basically triggered my kind of statement on that.
Okay.
Because like 3 years ago, we followed a lot of different templates to make a good question. But now, even with very natural language description, as long as it's kind of a thorough, question, I think always easy to understand. It doesn't need to follow, that complex templates. That's why, I kind of say prompt engineering is getting less and less important. That's probably because it's getting less and less complex.
Except that if you take a look at what's going on right now, the idea of skills and the idea of harness engineering is just that. And so, sure, the think through it step by step pieties aren't there anymore, but the idea of figuring out how you are structuring the protocols for it to engage with these various things is far more critical now. And just the difference between Claude Opus 4.6 and 4.7 in terms of instruction following, how you prompt 4.6 is different than how you prompt 4.7. And so, no, it's never just been about copying and pasting templates. It's about thinking about how you articulate your problem such that you get the result that you want.
All right, thank you both for your perspectives. Now we have got a question, which is, I guess, a statement, but I guess we'll, oh, sorry, no, it's not. It is a question. What skills do we value and what are we willing to offload? So it is a question we should all be asking ourselves, but I guess we'd like to get some of your opinions. Min, did you want to start the conversation off?
Oh, sorry, what was the question again? What skills are we willing to keep and
what do we value and which ones are we willing to offload? Yeah.
Oh, that is such a...
This has got a comment on what you were saying before. I was reflecting that it was kind of rhetorical. We do need to ask ourselves this question as well as asking our students this.
Yes. I guess I can't speak for like people who are learning out there. I can only speak for my own experience. I use AI quite a lot. I'm a learning designer and that is my expertise. And so I'm not willing to trade off my expertise to AI because that is a skill that I value. And I imagine as a researcher, there are skills in your domain that you value, that you've worked hard to develop. Whereas there are other skills, I don't know, what's an example? Excel spreadsheets. I'm terrible with Excel formulas, right? But sometimes I have to do that very quickly. As an admin task, and that's not a skill that is critical for my role. And so I'm willing to use AI to help me in a very transactional way to help me with that particular task. And so I think it's very context dependent. But the skills that I know I've developed myself, I'm not willing to offload all of that and get AI to completely automate the development of, say, a lesson plan or something like that. I mean, I'd be willing to use it as a critical friend or partner to look at my draft, but I would not be willing to completely offload that. I don't know if that really answers the question, but maybe Brian and Weisi have something to add as well.
In terms of cognitive offloading, what I find useful when I work with AI is not so much delegation, and like we can go into the Centaur v Cyborg discussion that Molek coined, but it is a way of managing my own cognitive load. So for me, by building scaffolding, by building structure, and by getting the AI to engage with me and to elicit my opinions at some great length, I find it much easier to engage with tasks in smaller chunks and therefore manage how I engage with these things. It is something where it is almost process management and reflection rather than delegation. And I do have some experimental prompts that I've been working on with Jodie Torrington with her education technology classes around how to understand lesson planning and how to engage with it quite deeply. The trick is it takes a while and requires you to know what you want and the appropriate pedagogy behind it.
Yeah, can I add one more thing? So basically, what I feel is that like back in the old ages of industrial revolution, people lost their kind of muscle, if they do kind of white collar jobs, and they have to, if they want to keep their muscle strong, they have to go to gyms to work out. So I don't say what we should offload, but what we should keep in mind is that we should work out our brain just constantly, so that probably in several years' time, our next generation will have less opportunity to work out the brain because they have AI kind of so integrated into the life. So yeah, my point of view is that we should first of all work out our brain, and secondly, we should get up to speed to what the technology, where the technology is. The willingness to explore is the next thing everyone should have. So, but keep in mind that get ready, what you have explored last month may get outdated very soon in the next month. And also, as I said in the chat, if one day AI can kind of replace or can do a lot of different jobs in the world, then I think we will go, finally go to the world where people can really enjoy the life without working too much, and the capability to feel happiness is the most important skill that everyone should have. That's it.
Thank you. Next question. How do we talk to researchers, students about the value of a free versus paid version of general LLMs? As I'm told the paid versions are much better, but I wonder how many people are willing to subscribe.
So this is one of my hobby horses. Under no circumstances ever should you use a free large language model. Unfortunately, it is part of my job to read the terms of service of all of the models. And I set a special challenge to everyone using Enterprise Copilot. Go find the terms of service that actually applies to you. I haven't been able to find it. But the free version, you are trading capability and privacy for money. It is a bad trade. Either side of that trade is a bad trade. By looking at which model you want to use that week, noting that it's going to change, you are able to then choose where to spend something that you value and engage on that in a commercial thing with much better contractual privacy implications. There are ways to choose different providers in different ways by looking at the terms of service, by looking at where the inference is conducted. But if everyone listening takes one thing away from this chat, I implore you to not use free versions, and that includes Copilot.
The next question, what's the thoughts of ethical side of AI when especially we are working with healthcare data and using AI generated workflow to get insights from healthcare data?
Yeah, I'll start with that. So at UTS, we have kind of two levels of guardrails. So first of all, people have to use for healthcare data or any kind of sensitive or above category data, they have to use one of our endorsed AI tools, currently only Microsoft Copilot. And if they use the Microsoft Copilot with the licensed one and follow the, only using the licensed space, it's not going to upload any information to Microsoft servers for training, and it's only local to UTS. And secondly, if they really want to use other tools, to get ideas about how to use the data to do some analysis and get insights, instead of feeding the data to the AI tools, they can feed the headers instead. So, the AI tools can give some ideas about how to handle the data, even create code for, analyzing the data. But, you're not feeding the data into it and there's no risk. That's my 2 cents.
There are definitely specific implications as to what we are allowed to do with different categories. So highly sensitive data, you're looking at using NCI and local models. Sensitive data, paid very close attention to your terms of service. But what I would also say is remember that AI, in one form or the other, has been around since the 50s. What we call AI, what we call generative AI, what we call all these things does not belong in one solitary bucket. And so do not have one way of understanding the appropriateness of AI in healthcare, because computer vision, machine learning, expert systems, all of these things have different roles and different risk profiles. And thinking very carefully through the specific failure modes and where judgment and liability lands is very important.
Thank you. Now, we've probably got time for just one more question. So to what extent do the panel think that it is important for researchers to understand how the AI tool works? People often don't really want to know how the technology works. Do you think with AI tools, this is the case for the importance of understanding them? So we might start the conversation with Minh.
I saw Brian's response. Yes, I think to some degree it is important to understand maybe not all the technicalities of the large language model and how it's producing the output, but I think it's really important to understand how the model has been trained and where it's drawing the data from, whether it's static or whether it's drawing it from live sources, whether it's, can access open source things or you can feed resources into it. I think there's all those functionalities that are important to understand. And of course, how to engage with the tool. So how to prompt and get the best output of that tool. So look, I don't consider myself to be an AI expert in terms of the technicalities, but I do understand how to shape the output. So I think, yes, to some degree, it is important.
Understanding what tokens are and understanding the processes under the hood is very useful for having a good mental model of what you are invoking. If you are hiding prompts from people, if you're hiding system prompts from people, if you're hiding what models they're using, they're not able to make effective judgment. And so having a sense of what you should expect from a given prompt in a given interface, in a given model, what the idea of tokens are, what the failure modes of these things are is critical. I don't think we need to be implementing JIPIT 2 from scratch in our browsers at that level. And so I would say that treating this like fundamental infrastructure and fundamental technologies from the 90s is a much better intuition than treating it as a web app where anyone can play. So I agree with you, Min.
Yeah, just add one more thing. People may want to know why Gen AI can hallucinate or generate bias, and understanding how it was trained, and it's basically a model that can generate things randomly is very important. And yeah, I agree. To some extent, it's very important.
Thank you so much, Min, Brian, and Weisi, for guiding us through such a complex and important topic today. So now, as we wrap up, Liz will put a link into the chat, but if you would like to provide some feedback for the session, there'll be a link and would love that. And I'm now going to hand over to Kathryn Unsworth. So she's the manager of our Skilled Workforce Development team, just for an important announcement.
Thanks, Ellen. Can everyone hear me? Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, just to start with, what a great conversation on AI. I have to say I've really learnt a lot today, and just the different perspectives as well is really interesting, because this isn't a settled or, single perspective environment when we're talking about AI and our use of it. So really, really interesting perspectives coming from our speakers today. So thank you, all three of you. So today's National Skills Forum marks the final event in our current series as we transition to a new model of engagement with trainer communities. Reflecting on the past 18 months, we are incredibly proud of the vibrant community of trainers and researchers we've brought together. These forums have been a highlight of our skills engagement efforts, and we truly value the connections that have been formed across the national landscape. Beyond this final session, the ARDC is evolving its strategy to ensure we are maximising our impact. As an organisation, we have a responsibility to be measured in how we allocate our resources, ensuring our efforts are directed toward the specific strategic aims we are funded to drive. So to that end, we are sharpening our focus. Moving forward, our support for trainers will concentrate on the community's delivering skills uplift to users of ARDC-owned and supported services and tools. This includes the digital research infrastructure we co-invest in with partners, specifically across the health and medical, earth and environmental and humanities, social sciences and Indigenous research domains. So this shift is not about moving away from the trainer community. It's about ensuring our support is deeply tailored to the critical infrastructure projects that underpin our national research priorities. By concentrating ARDC efforts here, we can provide more meaningful, actionable and sustainable support to the trainers working within these specialised areas. While the focus is narrowing, our commitment to the broader network remains. We anticipate that our work with these targeted groups will uncover common challenges and best practices, and we remain committed to distilling those insights and sharing them back with the wider digital. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us, so please do share your thoughts via the retrospective and transition survey that Alan or Liz has just posted in the chat. And we thank you for coming on this journey with us and for the incredible work you continue to do in empowering researchers across the country. So thank you all. And it may be the end of this particular type of forum, but we do plan on letting everyone know where we're heading in the future. And once we do have that nailed down, you'll hear from us. So thank you, everyone. And thanks for a great session. It was really good.